Welcome to episode 286 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Jérôme Cohen-Olivar. He just did a horror film called The 16th Episode. It's another very timely story about a bunch of YouTubers who struggle to build their channel and end up in a lot of trouble. We talk through this film as well as some of his other projects, so stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 286. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Jérôme Cohen-Olivar. Here is the interview. Welcome, Jérôme, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Well, thanks, Ashley, for having me.
So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
Okay, I grew up in Morocco mainly. I was born in Paris. At the age of 4, I moved to Morocco with my parents, and that's where I grew up. And I guess the culture there and the many rituals and the stories and tales about Morocco is a very story-rich country, and so I think that played a role in constructing, I guess, my psyche as far as trying to tell stories. So that was one part, and it's obviously it's a very complex mechanism as to how you become a storyteller.
Well, did you go to film school? Did you start doing short films on your own? Maybe walk us through sort of that process.
Well, to be honest, when you mentioned filmmaking back in my days in Morocco, nobody would really take you seriously. It's not like we had the industry over there, and it was mainly me grabbing my Super 8 camera and then shooting just random stuff, mostly found footage. But at the time, I guess you wouldn't call it found footage, but it was just basically just random footage and of me doing silly things and friends and being stabbed and blood and stuff like that. And then slowly, as years went by, I realized that this was actually something that I really wanted to do, and so it's I guess it's a little more difficult when you're on this side of the Atlantic, because again there's no industry and it's hard to connect to anyone and to get advice. So for a while I kind of forgot about it. I didn't go to film school. I actually studied. I went to UCLA. I studied economics, and I dropped out. And I said, okay, now I know what I want to do. I want to make movies because whatever I'm doing is really boring. So I went and shot a first short film, and then from then on, started building my, slowly building my career, and here you go.
I got you. Perfect. So let's dig into the 16th episode. Maybe to start out, you can give us a quick logline or pitch. What is the story for that film?
Yeah, the 16th episode is about these 3 YouTubers who are not really doing very well with their channels, and they're really struggling. Everyone has a backstory about why and how they're struggling. So the movie opens in Brazil, and the viewership is down, and their next episode is in Casablanca, and mainly what they want to do is try to get the viewership up. Otherwise, basically, they're out of the picture. So they go to Morocco, and things. Do you want me to tell you just the whole story? Or you've seen the movie, right?
No, I have not seen it yet. So I just want to get a kind of a feel for it.
Okay.
But I think that's a good
Yeah,
sort of summation.
yeah.
That's the kind of the setup, and I think that will be interesting for people, and enough to kind of get them to think maybe they should check it out. So
Great.
maybe you can talk about sort of where this story came from. Obviously, being about YouTubers who are trying to get views, that's very, very timely. But where did this story come from? How did you come up with this idea?
I was trying to write a very conventional screenplay and try to get an agent in Los Angeles. So I started out doing that, and it was obviously, you know how hard it is. And I had an open door at one of the major agencies, and so I was sending screenplays and getting passes all the time. One day, my agent told me, he wasn't my agent then, but he said, you should write something. You should write something really like from the heart. Without trying to fit in any kind of a paradigm. So I kind of went freestyle in the beginning. I kind of went, out of everything that I learned, the scholarly way, and started writing what was then Little Horror Movie. And then from then on, I realized that maybe I had a script. So I sent it to this guy, and he said, okay, I like it. Let's try and get it out to people. So he sent it out to 3 companies, and Oren Peli, the director of Paranormal Activity, ended up optioning the script. And I was out of the picture because I wasn't supposed to direct the movie. So I waited after a year, development hell, nothing happened. 2 years, nothing happened. And I decided that I was going to direct it and shoot it and direct it. And that's what I did. But since time had passed, I rewrote it again and kind of integrated the new elements to answer your question about the YouTubers. It was the exact same story, except, when I wrote it, they weren't YouTubers, and when I shot it, they were YouTubers. But it was about a blog, and was about, kind of the same thing. So the elements were a little bit updated to fit the actual, the time, the time frame of now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this agent, he said, go write something from the heart. And I'm curious, did you just love horror movies? So this was the first thing that kind of came to you. And so you were well versed on this, and these are the kinds of films you enjoy watching. And so this is the kind of film you wanted to make.
Yes, well, when you're trying to get an agent, I think for me, and I speak for me, you always try to do your grammar right. You always try to do your structure right. You kind of want to apply the rules that you learned, and it's a good thing to do. And again, I speak for me because everybody, I'm sure, has a different approach. And it works and it doesn't. And at some point, I think what you feel is what remains. And I think that I was writing, decent screenplays were maybe a little too formulaic. And when I wrote Little Horror Movie, I kind of went with some kind of rage, and I forgot the grammar, and I forgot everything. I forgot every rule. And to me, I had written something that was a little bit of a mess. And I think that's when you do that, that becomes interesting, because you leave everything you've learned behind. It's kind of like when you speak. You don't think about vocabulary, you don't think about grammar. And if you think too much about it, then you kind of lose your identity, and you kind of lose who you are. I think for me it was kind of the same thing, and my writing since then had become much more intuitive, as opposed to, okay, well, I'm going to write the first act, I'm going to have a break at page 19, and then a midpoint at page 60, and then a pinch or whatever. And I stopped doing that completely. And when I stopped doing that, I felt that people were responding to my stories much more. So I'm not saying that I'm against everything that you learn writing a screenplay. All I'm saying is that it should be in the background. It should be something that you have in the back of your mind, and then forget about it, and then just write from your heart. To answer your question, horror was my thing. I just went and wrote something almost without thinking. I wrote a first draft maybe in like 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. Obviously, the rewriting takes forever,
Mm-hmm.
but the base was there about 3-4 weeks, and then the rewriting, takes how many, like 10, 15 drafts, of rewrite, and then I'm sure it's always the case,
Yeah.
especially when you have a few people working. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious, because the way this seemed to go down was you wrote the script, you sent it out, you got it optioned, but nothing ever came of it. Was your intention all along, or you were hoping that you would get to direct it? And sort of the secondary question was, as you're writing this, did you write with budget in mind, knowing that you might end up directing it and might not be able to raise $50 million?
Yeah. Well, first, it's a very low budget because it's found footage. Well, it's not really found footage because it's shot with the objective and subjective point of view. So it's not really found footage.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I hear about the new take on found footage, and it's very flattering and all that, but I wouldn't call it a found footage. I would just call it a film.
Mm-hmm.
But so to answer your question, when I wrote it, I intended to direct it, and I didn't even intend to send it to my agent at all, because my thought was he's going to read this and make fun of me because it's too crazy and it's too it's completely out of the box. And I guess I was on my computer and getting bored, or being on some social media or something, and I said, I have nothing to lose. I said to myself, so I sent it and forgot about it. 3 weeks later, and he calls me and says, "You got a great script. Let's get it out there." So that's kind of the way it went. And then, I was very happy because Orange Valley was obviously who he was, and to me, it was a perfect springboard, as a writer. But then, when things drag on, then you kind of go, hey, what is this all about? Obviously, I'm not doing it for the money. Otherwise, I would have chosen another job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it for the fame, and I just want to take pleasure in doing it and have fun doing it. I want to make my own film. I think that's so important at the end, because there's nothing for me. I would have suffered if somebody had made it and had not adhered to the vision of the film. It would have been very hurtful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about your writing process for a minute. Just some quick questions.
Yeah, sure.
Where do you typically write? Do you have a home office? Do you write at a Starbucks coffee shop? Where do you typically write your scripts?
I typically write in places that are noisy and that are I need life around me, and I'm sure that I don't know about the writers. I'm sure everybody has his way, but to me, if I find that I'm too isolated, I tend to lose it. It's the opposite. I tend to lose the thought. So I need life around me for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it triggers some unconscious things and makes my writing more truthful. Maybe I don't know why. But so usually I can go to a cafe and start thinking about the ideas. And what I would do is I used to write treatments. Again, I go back to being scholarly as opposed to. So I used to write treatments, and I used to do cards when I started. And right now, I know my setup. I know the middle of the movie, my midpoint. I know the ending, and that's all I need to know. Because I found that if I set myself too many story beats or too many obligations during the screenplay, then you lose the ability for the characters to find their own motivation and find their own way. And so, again, to answer your question, I would say the writing process is a little bit intuitive. Mm-hmm. I think my unconscious mind knows exactly what's going to happen, but my conscious mind has no idea. And I kind of like to play with that balance of, okay, I know what the setup is. I know what the end is. I know structurally, more or less, the balance of the movie. I don't want to know more, because something might arise that is totally surprising, mm-hmm. that is totally out of context. And that, to me, is the edge, and that to me is the little plus, the little spark that's going to make the screenplay maybe a little different, and push it a little bit out of bounds. And going back to horror, I think to me what makes a good horror movie, it's before anything is the drama behind it. There's this whole debate about horror not being drama, but if you look at all the classics, and I don't mean to lecture anybody here, but I'm just, this is just so you get an idea of
Sure.
How the process goes. If you look at the classics, and if you look at movies like The Conjuring, or The Exorcist, or Omen, or Don't Look Now, or all these movies, it's really about they're really character driven, and characters and they're really about characters pushing the plot, and not the other way around. And I really try to do that in the 16 episodes. And then hopefully you can find a balance, but to me it will always be about character and plot second. So that's I hope that kind of gives you an idea.
Yep. No, I totally agree. How can people see the 16th episode? Do you know when it's going to be released?
Yes, it's going to be released on June 28th in a few theaters across the country, limited release, and then simultaneously it's going also to be released on VOD, iTunes, I guess everywhere. A lot of platforms. The distributor did Gravitas a very good job at placing the movie in major outlets and stuff. So I'm excited about that. I'm really excited. So so anybody who wants to watch the movie, they can just go to iTunes, and it will be on Amazon Prime and on cable right after that, and on DVD and Blu-ray, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Perfect. And what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? Twitter, Facebook, a blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, I'll round up for the show notes.
Yes. I have a page on the 16 episode page. I have a private page, which is my page. But on my page, I rarely talk movies. It's like when I go home, I rarely talk movies. So it's kind of the same with my life on Facebook. So there's a professional page with the 16 episodes. There's a website, and then my partner, Yasmina Hadimi, who produced the film, she keeps all the professional. She also handles the social media and the website and everything, and she keeps everything updated. So she'll probably have more material coming up in the next few days.
Okay.
But you can definitely keep up. Just I use Twitter also. I'm not a super social media expert, so that's more my partner Yasmina, and who's, by the way, I want to say hello if it's a podcast, and thank her for the work, because I wouldn't. Okay, if that's possible.
Yeah, perfect.
So yeah.
Well, Jérôme, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today. Good luck with this film, and good luck with all your future films.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
A quick plug for the SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get a high-quality professional evaluation on your screenplay. When you buy our 3-pack, you get evaluations at just $67 per script for feature films and just $55 for teleplays. All the readers have professional experience reading for studios, production companies, contests, and agencies. You can read a short bio on each reader on our website, and you can pick the reader who you think is the best fit for your script. Turnaround time is usually just a few days, but rarely more than a week. The readers will evaluate your script on 6 key factors: concept, character, structure, marketability, tone, and overall craft, which includes formatting, spelling, and grammar. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend, which should help you roughly understand where your script might rank if you were to submit it to a production company or agency. We can provide an analysis on features or television scripts. We also do proofreading without any analysis. We will also look at a treatment or outline and give you the same analysis on it. So if you're looking to vet some of your project ideas, this is a great way to do it. We will also write your logline and synopsis for you. You can add this logline and synopsis writing service to an analysis, or you can simply purchase this service as a standalone product. As a bonus, If your screenplay gets a recommend or a consider from one of our readers, you get to list the screenplay in the SYS Select database, which is a database for producers to find screenplays and a big part of our SYS Select program. Producers are in the database searching for material on a daily basis, so it's another great way to get your material in front of them. As a further bonus, if your script gets a recommend from one of our readers, your screenplay will get included in our monthly Best Of newsletter. Each month we send out a newsletter that highlights the best screenplays that have come through our script analysis service. This is a monthly newsletter that goes out to our list of over 400 producers who are actively looking for material. So again, this is another great way to get your material out there. So if you want a professional evaluation of your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. That's the show. Thank you for listening.